Welcome to our brand new PhotographyBB Urban Art 2 action for Photoshop. And wow, what a journey here. Now, we originally created our first version of the Urban Art action way back in 2008 to help our users recreate the urban illustration effect of a Photoshop plugin called LucasArt. Now, unfortunately, the company that produced the plugin has since gone out of business, possibly because at the time the LucasArt plugin was so expensive and out of reach for many consumers at that time. Now, that aside, it did produce a beautiful HDR type of grungy illustration, which was really new and a highly sought after stylized look at that time. So we set out to reproduce the effect as best as possible using only Photoshop filters, and in 2008 our Urban Art action was born. Now, over the years I've been playing with different adjustments to that effect, wanting to create something that would be a blend of our original Urban Art effect with additional painterly and high energy elements. The result is something we are really proud of here, and this is our newly recrafted Urban Art 2 action for Photoshop. Now, before you run Urban Art 2, the action does make use of some of our new custom brushes. So if you haven't installed the brush pack that comes with this action, do that now and be sure to set your brush opacity to 100%. And you can do this quickly by pressing B to activate the brush tool and then 0 to set the opacity to 100%. So I'm going to use this image here, and let's begin. So open up your Actions panel and toggle open the Urban Art 2 action set. You'll see there are two steps to the action. Click on Step 1, select Focus, and click Play at the bottom of the Actions panel. Like many of our actions, the first step is to make a selection of our main subject. The pop-up dialog now tells us to paint over the main subject. So let's click Stop to do this now. Now, there are a couple ways to do this. You can use the brush, which is automatically selected for you by default, and simply paint over the main subject. You'll notice that you're painting on the main focus area layer, which allows you to use the eraser tool to erase your brushing if you make any mistakes. Now, alternatively, I like to select my subject using the Quick Selection tool. So you can click on W or Shift W to toggle to the Quick Selection tool. And to use this method, you need to first click on the background layer where we're going to make a selection of our main subject. Now, we make the selection on the background layer because that's currently the only layer with actual pixels on it. So click on the background layer if you're going to use this method. Then just paint over the area that you want to select. And you can increase or decrease the size of this tool using the square bracket keys. Now, you can release the mouse button and press it again to continue adding to your selection. Or if you select something outside of the main subject area, you can hold down the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC and paint there to subtract those areas from your selection. So let's finish up selecting my main subject here using this method. And actually, I'm going to leave out a part of the subject to show you how to fix that if you miss a spot by mistake. So with our selection made, now we click on the main focus area layer, and we're going to fill it with the paint color that we would have been brushing with if we were using the brush tool method instead. So to do this, quickly press Shift Delete and change the drop down to foreground color, and then click Enter or OK. Now in this example, you can see I missed a part of my main subject, so that's easy to fix. So just click back on the background layer again, and we'll continue making the selection of those missed areas. And then go back to the main focus area layer and press Shift Delete again and Enter or OK to fill in those remaining areas. Now, this particular effect is meant to be a bit messy, so feel free to be more liberal with creating your selection. It doesn't have to be exact, and it doesn't even need to cover your entire subject from top to bottom. It's totally up to you. Okay, so with our main focus area painted, we can now move on to Step 2, Run Urban Art. So click on that and click Play. Now, depending on the speed of your computer, this action may take a couple of minutes to complete. Okay, so there we go. And wow, this one looks good. Okay, so I'm going to close the dialog box here and close the Actions panel out of the way. Okay. So before I get into the customization options, for me, this image is just begging to be cropped. So let's do that first. I can hit C to bring up the crop tool and pick an orientation above here. And yeah, I like that. Okay, very nice. Okay. So let's head on over to the layers palette and dive in. Now the first group here contains a brand new set of color filters that we've created to give your image a completely different look and feel. So open the toggle for this layer group and you have 6 new color options. So to apply these, turn on the layer visibility for each of these layers to see how they affect your artwork. And you can even go into each of these subgroups and make more fine adjustments if you like. Now, True Blue looks pretty cool on this image. And I can even reduce that just a little by decreasing the opacity of this group. Okay, but for now, I'll turn off the color filter so I can better demonstrate the rest of the custom options that we have available here. Okay, so now we can close up the color filters group and look at our neon glow group. Something our original urban art action was lacking was an energetic component on the final result. So we've created these sort of neon light waves to give that high energy feeling to the image. And all of these are adjustable. So firstly, you can turn on or off this group by clicking the visibility layer icon for the group, or you can toggle it open and make even more adjustments here. So each of these 4 layers can be turned on or off, and you can make opacity adjustments to any of them. And if you aren't fond of the default colors that we've created, you can double click on any of the color swatches and make changes. So let's change number 3 here from blue to orange. So you can actually do this by just double clicking on the actual layer itself, which will bring up the layer style dialog box. In the preview, you can see what the glow currently looks like. So now click on outer glow and click the color swatch to choose a new color. Now you can see in the preview window, it still has a bit of a blue hint to it. So we'll click on the inner glow option and change that as well. Now the preview shows the glow color nicely. Okay, so click OK to apply that. And this can be done for all 4 of these neon lines to create the best color combinations that you feel are right for your image. So next up, we have the main subject layer group. Now before we open that up, you'll notice that there's a layer mask attached to the group here. So if you find that any of the art effects are in the way of your subject's facial features or any other portions of your image where you don't want the effect to cover up, you can just grab a soft white brush, click on the layer mask to make that active, and then paint with white on any of the areas that you would like to restore. So alternatively, if there are areas where you want to bring the effect in to cover more of the subject, you can switch the brush color to black and paint in black over those areas, like this. Okay, so let's open this group and explore the layers inside. So the first 2 layers in here are going to dramatically affect the artwork from image to image. So if you find your image is looking too flat or too contrasty, here's where you can make those adjustments. So you can adjust the visibility of the brightness and fade subject layers to on or off, or double click them to make further refinements. So here, I'll turn the brightness on and double click it to add some more contrast. The fade subject layer works similarly where you can turn it on or off, or double click it to make those finer adjustments. And once you're happy with the results, you can move to the subject adjust mask layer, where you can double click on the unsharp mask filter to increase or decrease your subject sharpness. Okay, so that's good. We can just close up this group, and our next group contains our pencil scribbles. So there are 3 levels of pencil lines where each one has a separate color adjustment layer. To change the strength of the layer, you click on the scribble layer, not the color layer, and adjust the opacity to your liking. Then to adjust the line color, you can click on the color adjustment layer just above the scribble layer that you're working on. Now I'm really digging this whole purplish blue vibe, so I'm going to change some of the white lines on Scribbles 3 to purple instead of white. So if I zoom into 100%, you can see the effect of that layer here. And again, I can set the opacities as something that works well with the image. Okay, so I'll go back out to 33%. Okay, so you can see the full image here. Okay, so you can play around with the lines and really have some fun in here with these. So let's close up this group, and next up is our paint effects group, and there's 6 levels of paint effects here to create with. Now all of these pull their color from the underlying main image. However, the color for each of these layers can also be adjusted to your liking. So for example, Paint Effect 6. By double-clicking on the adjustment icon on Color 6, just above, I can control the colors of the splashes on this layer. And I can make them darker or lighter with the lightness slider, like this. I can change the amount of saturation, like this. And I can even shift the hues of the underlying color, which can really produce some cool results. Now I can even turn on the colorize checkbox and choose a specific color for just these splashes. So let's say again, I'm overly loving this blue purple type of vibe here and I want to do that. So I can click on the colorize, crank up the saturation nice and high, and slide the hue slider until I get that perfect tone. And then even adjust the brightness or the darkness as well. So that is too cool. Let's just leave it there. And now if it's too strong, you can reduce the opacity of the paint effects layer, not the color layer. So let's bring it down to like 40% or so here. Good. Now most of these layers work similarly. So Paint Effects 6, 5, and 3 actually control these sorts of stringy paint splashes. Paint layer 4 is a bit different in that it introduces more of a textured splash to the image. But again, you can control the colors exactly as we did above. Paint Effects 2 controls the wider paint splotches just around the edge of our image. And the visibility and opacity can be adjusted here as well. Or you can double click on the adjustment icon of Color 2 layer just above it to make those same color adjustments to this layer as well. And Paint Effects 1 does the exact same thing, except this controls the wider paint splashes around the outside of the subject. And now you can get some really interesting results by double clicking that adjustment layer icon on the Color 1 layer and reducing saturation right down to 0. And then playing with the lightness setting. Like that. Okay, now lastly, we have the paper background color layer right below. So you'll have the flexibility to change the paper color as well. So double click on the color swatch here, and you can change the paper color. Or you can even bring it right down to black. So let's actually do that. And click OK. And then let's go back to the Color 1 layer for the Paint Effects 1 layer. And let's turn on Colorize and pick a deep sort of orange hue with a pretty strong saturation. And let's adjust the lightness a bit to about 25% here. So that gives us a completely different look in just a few quick steps there. And there you have it. This is our brand new, fully controllable Urban Art 2 effect. I hope you have a lot of fun with this one, creating all sorts of artwork using this action. While it was originally designed to work on portraitures, this particular action is going to be spectacular on nature photographs of animals as well. Thanks again for checking out the action, and happy photoshopping. On behalf of myself and everyone here at PhotographyBB, thank you for checking out our brand new Artistry 2 actions for Photoshop. We hope you have hours of fun creating stunning works of art with these, and I personally look forward to seeing everything you create using these actions.